Councillor Zulhash Uddin.
And where do you represent?
Southborough and High Brooms, but also the Town Councillor as well.
So you're on the District Council and the Town Council?
That's right, yes.
Okay. So what's your feelings about the hub and what people have been saying to you in this morning's library presentation?
This is my second time been here. I've been here on Wednesday and today, so I think the feeling I'm getting from feedback, talking to the officers and resident, there is a real enthusiasm now in terms of the development, how the project has moved on, and it's moving quite rapidly in terms of getting an outcome for the planning application. People are, I feel that they're genuinely interested in terms of seeing something happen in Southborough, and looking at the plans for myself, and I think it's a great move for Southborough, and it's been such a long time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are keen to see the derelict area developed and the idea of putting things in roughly the same place.
Yes.
But there was obviously thousands of people signed a petition to save the Victoria Hall.
Of course, yes.
How do you feel about losing that old building?
I think it shows that people have a genuine concern about the Royal Victoria Hall and the emotional aspect that goes along with it. And obviously when David Solomon initiated this piece of land, the project, it's been great for the community. But also the reality is people, time has moved on, and I think for the local people, it's been a very difficult choice to make, and we've seen huge number of people petitioning to keep the Royal Victoria Hall, but in the end, obviously the council had to make a decision, and obviously we've gone through the process, the mechanism, and we've come to that conclusion where the council has voted in favour of demolishing and rebuilding something new, which is including a theatre/hall. So I think we are losing a building which has a lot of history and heritage, but also we hope that the decision the council have taken will bring something bigger and better for the communities to enjoy and for the generation to enjoy really, and it'll be part of the hub. So it was a very difficult decision, I think, and credit to everybody who signed the petition and showed their interest, but also in the end the council had to make a decision and going through the relevant mechanism.
I mean, generally though, if you start with a solid building in good structural repair, which the Victoria Hall is, made of brick, natural light, and you put a new one to replace it in virtually exactly the same spot, you are spending an awful lot of money. Are you sure the money couldn't have been spent on something better?
Oh, that's a great question in terms of the viability and feasibility, and that's what the officers have been looking at in terms of all the options that we have available. And just to remind you, I mean, obviously this is a self-funding project, so any money that is generated to rebuild and bring the hub to a realisation has to be self-funded, and this is what's happening here.
So I mean, they're building lots of houses to fund it. I mean, could we have got away with fewer houses on the fields if we were doing a refurbishment and instead of a complete knockdown, dispose of all the contents and rebuild?
I mean, with the housing, I live on Crendon Park, so I think taking away my role as a councillor personally impacts me more than anybody else. I live in number 5 Crendon Park, so it's a real concern for me in terms of house price and the build. But I see there's no reason why we can have development at such a scale that we are having, because this is bringing Southborough in a way that is modern, that is relevant for the area, and bringing life back into Southborough, including bringing Southborough Hub in terms of the library, medical centre, and all this bringing a community spirit back into Southborough. If you have the Victoria Hall on its own, and
you could keep and build the medical centre and the library around it potentially.
There was an option, but the council voted in favour of a option which is to.
So there's no chance of them rethinking that, I think.
No, I think that we've gone beyond that now. In terms of we made that decision that we are moving ahead with the new build, and people had the consultation. It's been such a long consultation. I think it's about 8 weeks consultation. And we've gone through the mechanism and we've come to that conclusion. And I think it's a difficult one, but we must move on and accept the decision of the council. And again, the council is making decision on behalf of the resident.
And you think the majority of people, despite the petition, the majority of people are now on the side of knocking down the old building?
I think, there will always be difficult in accepting what we are losing. Of course it will, because, it's been there for such a long time. And it's been part of Southborough for such a long time. People have grown up seeing the theatre, seeing what goes on in terms of pantomime and so on. So the emotional attachment is there.
Many in the theatre groups are concerned that the new one won't be as good as the old one. So in which case, why spend all that money if you could have refurbished it?
I have spoken to a couple of people about the theatre. I did see them one-to-one, and it's been a great insight for me to learn the history and what's gone on before that. They're absolutely right to raise all these issues, and that's the mechanism that we are going through: consultation, collaboration. And in the end, we have to come to a conclusion where, a decision has to be made for the betterment of Southborough. And I believe we've made the right one. The community has made the right one. We've gone through lengthy consultation.
There was only about 200 people who filled in it and said they wanted the hall knocked down, whereas we had about 6,000 or 7,000 signing the petition to keep it.
You're absolutely right. In terms of people signing the petition and people going through the consultation are two different numbers. But what we can't control is how many people participate. We can only put a mechanism in place to give people the opportunity to participate. And so I think it's been fair that we've gone through the mechanism. If people hasn't taken the opportunity to participate, I think that's a very, it's an individual decision they've made. But we can only go through what we've got. Look at the general election or the local election. We have 30%, 40% people participate, but they're making decision on behalf of the majority of people. So we are seeing, in terms of mechanism, this is the reality.
Another question is there a sufficiently good business plan in place? Because obviously with any business project, you put up a new construction, you say, well, what revenue is going to come in to finance the borrowing or the cost of it? Are you happy there's a sound enough business plan? Do we know who's going to rent this hall out, the running costs of the new building, that sort of thing?
That's a great question. I think many people are asking that for the information. I'm not aware of any business plan as yet. I'm sure we are going through the mechanism that will be bringing to light, because obviously without a business plan, how do you forecast how it's going to work? So, it makes sense to have a business plan. I haven't seen any business plan yet. I think when we are in a situation going through planning and so on, I think this will come into the public domain, I'm sure, because without that navigational piece, we don't really know how we are moving and where we're moving in terms of the direction and so on. So it will be a very sensible thing to have a business plan as soon as, and look at how this will work out in reality, because obviously this has to be a sustainable project rather than one shot wonder, if you like. It has to be a sustainable one in the community. So you're right, there will be I'm sure there will be a business plan, and it's how we make it in terms of a legacy to work for community. That's a question we need to ask.